She walked away with a baby. She came back with an empire. Part 2. Chapter 8, The Devil's Table. Hell doesn't always roar. Sometimes, it opens its doors and invites you to dinner. The ivory envelopes were hand-delivered. No return address. Just a black wax seal with the initials EB and the faint scent of jasmine and ink. One landed on the doorstep of Daniel and Chloe Whitmore's crumbling estate. Another arrived at the mayor's office. The rest were scattered like golden tickets across Oak Ridge's upper crust, socialites, investors, judges, and legacy families. Inside each envelope, in calligraphy, Blackwell Holdings cordially invites you to an evening of legacy, wine, and vision. Hosted by Evelyn Black at the Glass Manor Estate. Formal attire required. Confidential guest list 7 p.m. sharp. Chloe read it 3 times, then tossed it on the table like a challenge. She's making a spectacle of herself, she snapped. This is Oak Ridge, not Monte Carlo. Daniel stood by the window, reading the invitation quietly. He didn't say anything. But he was already thinking about the woman behind it. The Glass Manor estate was unlike anything Oak Ridge had seen. A modern glass-walled mansion surrounded by marble fountains and manicured hedges, lit from below like something divine, or dangerous. The staff wore black gloves and silver pins shaped like chess pieces. A string quartet played in the central atrium under a crystal chandelier the size of a small car. Every surface gleamed. Every hallway whispered wealth. At exactly 7 p.m., the guests arrived, Chloe in crimson velvet, her hair curled like a movie star, Daniel in a charcoal suit 2 years out of fashion. They were greeted by an assistant who led them toward the main hall without explanation. And then they saw her. Evelyn stood at the top of the grand staircase in a floor-length gown of midnight silk, so fitted it might as well have been weaponized. A diamond choker circled her throat. Her hair was swept up, revealing a single, deliberate scar behind her ear. A touch of imperfection. A whisper of realness. The crowd turned. Silence spread like wildfire. Evelyn descended 1 step at a time, not rushing, not smiling. Just arriving. As if the rest of them had been waiting in place until she appeared. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. Chloe tightened her grip on her wine glass. The devil had arrived, and she'd brought champagne. As dinner was served, Evelyn sat at the head of a long black marble table with guests arranged carefully down each side. Chloe and Daniel were placed directly across from her. Every course was plated like art: foie gras, truffle risotto, roasted lamb with pomegranate glaze. "Let's begin with a toast," Evelyn said, raising her glass. Her voice glided through the room like silk dipped in steel. To transformation. To survival. And to building something beautiful, out of ashes. Daniel shifted in his seat. Chloe clenched her jaw. Evelyn's eyes danced between them. "Oh," she added with a soft smile, "and to those who think ghosts stay buried. They never do." The toast was followed by applause. Nervous. Scattered. Only Chloe heard the venom beneath the lace. Later, in the ballroom, Evelyn opened the floor with a slow waltz, first with a visiting ambassador, then a tech mogul, then a former senator. And then, Daniel. He didn't ask. He just stepped forward. She allowed it. As they danced, the room melted away. He leaned in, his voice low. "You're not just here to do business. Are you?" She arched an eyebrow. "Do you always dance with your investors this closely?" "Only the ones who haunt my dreams." A flicker, barely visible, passed through her. He still doesn't know. She pressed a little closer. You're married, she whispered. His jaw tightened. In name. You were in love once, she said. He met her gaze. I still am. She smiled. A dangerous smile. That's unfortunate. The music ended. She stepped back, leaving him suspended between memory and desire. Across the room, Chloe watched everything. The way Daniel followed Evelyn's every move. The way Evelyn touched his shoulder like she owned him. The way Daniel forgot the room, the guests, the cameras. Chloe stormed out to the terrace, her heels echoing like bullets across marble. She gripped the railing, breath fogging the glass. Her hands trembled. It was happening again. Someone was taking everything from her, again. And this time, it was someone she couldn't outdress or outplay. After the guests had left and the lights had dimmed, Evelyn stood alone in the ballroom. She walked slowly to the grand piano, where a little velvet box waited. Inside was an old pendant necklace, Emma's. The one Daniel gave her. She turned it over in her hand. Her reflection stared back at her in the polished surface. Not Emma. Not anymore. Just Evelyn Black. And she was winning. Chapter 9, Letters Never Sent. Sometimes, the truth doesn't scream. Sometimes, it waits quietly in a drawer, until you're ready to bleed. It was nearly midnight when Evelyn's car pulled up outside the Whitmore estate. She wasn't there to be seen. She was there to know. The house, once her family home, still looked the same. Stately, cold, perched on the edge of the lake like a well-dressed lie. But inside, things had changed. It was darker now, quieter. Hollowed out. She watched from her parked car as the lights inside dimmed. Chloe's silhouette passed through the upstairs window, flickering like a dying flame. Evelyn waited. And waited. Until every light was out. Then she stepped out into the cold. She didn't break in. She didn't have to. The key under the fake rock on the porch was exactly where her father used to keep it. Muscle memory guided her through the halls. She walked past the family portraits Chloe hadn't bothered to take down, the ones with teenage Emma standing awkwardly beside her golden sister. The study door creaked as she opened it. The room still smelled of cedar and scotch. Daniel's desk sat by the window, cluttered with papers, bills, a cracked photo frame. Evelyn picked it up. The photo was of Daniel and Chloe on their wedding day. But the frame was cracked through her face. She almost laughed. She sat at the desk and began sifting through the drawers. Contracts. Failed investment notes. Credit card statements. Nothing useful. Until, the bottom drawer. Stuck. She yanked harder and it came open with a groan. Inside was a small wooden box. She opened it slowly. Letters. Dozens of them. All addressed to Emma. She read the first one with trembling fingers. I don't know if you'll ever read this. But I can't sleep. I see you every time I close my eyes. I know I failed you. I don't know how to fix it. But I swear to God, if you're out there, if our baby is real, I would give anything to undo what I did. She clutched the paper. Her heart pounded. Chloe says you made it up. That you lied about the pregnancy to punish me. But that doesn't sound like you. It sounds like her. Another letter. Older. She told me you cheated. That you were leaving anyway. That you'd moved on. I believed her. Why did I believe her? A third. I found the test. The real one. In the drawer you always kept locked. You were pregnant. Tears threatened to rise, but Evelyn forced them down. She read on. Letter after letter. Raw. Unsent. Some angry. Some desperate. Some filled with pain so familiar it pierced through the armor she'd spent 5 years building. If you ever come back, please let me meet her. Or him. I don't care what you call me. I just want to know our child exists. She let the final letter drop into her lap. For the first time in years, she didn't feel angry. She felt confused. Because Daniel hadn't just betrayed her. He had been betrayed, too. Evelyn stood in the middle of the study, staring at the moonlight falling across the rug. Flashes came back like broken glass. Chloe crying on the bathroom floor after Emma announced her pregnancy, then whispering, "You don't even know if it's his." Chloe borrowing Emma's phone to text Mum, but spending too long with it. Daniel suddenly pulling away 2 days later. Cold. Distant. None of it made sense then. It all made sense now. She manipulated both of us. Evelyn clenched her jaw. She had come back to destroy Daniel. But maybe she hadn't seen the whole story. The silence broke. Footsteps. A creak on the stairs. Evelyn froze. Daniel. Shirtless, half asleep, rubbing his eyes. He stepped into the study doorway, blinking in confusion. Emma. Her breath caught. She'd been seen. Not as Evelyn. Not as the investor. As her. His voice cracked. Is it really you? But she was already gone. Out the window. Into the dark. Letters in hand. Her mind spinning. Back at her estate, Evelyn sat by the fireplace, the letters scattered on the floor like fallen soldiers. Lily was asleep upstairs. The world was quiet. And she was no longer sure who the enemy was. She picked up one final letter. It was newer. The ink fresher. It had no greeting. No date. Even if you never forgive me, I will spend the rest of my life trying to earn the right to see my child. I don't want your forgiveness. I want her to know I didn't just give up. Evelyn stared at the flames. Her revenge had once been clear. But now, the lines were blurring. And nothing was more dangerous than a woman unsure whether to destroy or forgive. Chapter 10, Glimpses of Lily. Truth finds its way through the cracks, especially when it has his eyes and your smile. The morning light poured through the east-facing windows of the glass manor like golden silk. Evelyn stood in Lily's room, brushing her daughter's thick, dark hair. The child hummed a song softly, her legs swinging beneath the edge of her vanity chair. "Look at me," Evelyn said gently. Lily turned, her blue-grey eyes, Daniel's eyes, meeting hers in the mirror. It never stopped startling her. That her enemy's eyes lived inside the one person she loved without question. That her daughter's very face was a portrait of the past Evelyn had buried. But now, the past was coming back. "Remember what we talked about?" Evelyn asked. Lily nodded. "We don't talk about Daddy." "Not yet," Evelyn corrected. "Someday. But not yet." The little girl blinked. "Even if I meet him?" "You won't. Not unless I say it's okay." Lily tilted her head. "Will he know who I am?" Evelyn knelt and kissed her forehead. "No. Not unless you tell him." Lily smiled. Then I won't. Evelyn hugged her tightly, not realizing how hard her hands were gripping her daughter's back. Because deep down, she knew, secrets always slip. That weekend, the Oak Ridge Fall Festival filled the town square with lights, music, and caramel sweet air. Evelyn had told herself she'd keep Lily out of the spotlight. But Lily was 5 now, curious, social, clever. And she wanted to ride the Ferris wheel more than anything. So Evelyn took a risk. She dressed Lily in a cozy lilac sweater and jeans, a soft beret pulled low over her hair. She tied her own hair back in a scarf, wore oversized sunglasses, and avoided eye contact. They blended in. Mostly. But not to everyone. Daniel had come to the festival alone. Chloe had passed on the small-town nonsense. Too many pitchforks and budget vendors for her liking. But Daniel found himself drifting between food stalls, drawn in by the sound of children laughing, something he hadn't heard in his own house in far too long. He stopped by the balloon vendor, staring at the display blankly when a small voice beside him piped up. "I like the purple one best." He turned. There she was. Tiny, bright, 5 or 6 years old. Blue-gray eyes. A heart-shaped face. Hair like raven silk. Daniel's world stilled. "Yeah," he managed to say. "Purple's a strong choice." She grinned. "It's my favorite color." "I can see that," he replied, nodding to her sweater. Lily looked up at him with sudden seriousness. "You look like someone I know," she said, tilting her head. Daniel blinked. "So do you," he whispered. She held out her hand. "I'm Lily." He took it. "I'm Dan." But Evelyn's voice cut in like a blade. "Lily." She appeared suddenly, calm but sharp, walking fast across the grass. Lily let go of Daniel's hand immediately and ran to her. "Hi, Mom," she said sweetly. "I was just talking to this nice stranger," Evelyn finished, scooping her up and nodding at Daniel with a mask of politeness. Daniel stood frozen, staring at the woman, her sunglasses hiding half her face, but something still undeniable beneath them. He tried to speak. She looks just like." Evelyn cut him off. "Lots of little girls look alike. Thank you for being kind." Then she turned and walked away with Lily in her arms. But Daniel didn't move. Because something in him had shattered. Back at the estate, Evelyn sat Lily down on her bed. "You did nothing wrong," she said gently. "But if you see him again, you need to walk away. Promise?" Lily nodded, though her little face was puzzled. "He was nice." "I know," Evelyn said. "But not everyone who's nice should be trusted." She kissed her forehead. "I love you more than anything. Remember that." As Lily dozed off that night, Evelyn stared out her bedroom window, wine untouched in her hand. The lines were blurring. The wall between her past and present was cracking. And she had a terrible feeling. Daniel knew. Daniel didn't sleep that night. He went back to the fairgrounds, walking the paths alone. Replaying the moment. Her name. Her eyes. The way she spoke. He sat on a bench with his head in his hands. Could it be? Was that his daughter? He thought of the letters. The test. The woman he lost. He whispered into the dark, "Emma, what have you done?" And the wind whispered back nothing. The next morning, Evelyn received an unmarked envelope slid under her door. Inside was a single photograph. Lily. At the fair. With Daniel. taken from a distance. She stared at it. Her hands trembled. Someone had seen them. Someone else. Chapter 11, Secrets in Ink. Some betrayals are not accidents. They are choreographed, written in ink, rehearsed with a smile, and delivered like love. It began with a thunderstorm. Evelyn had returned to her childhood home, not as a guest, but as its shadow. Under the cover of a new property audit arranged through a shell company, she was granted access to the Whitmore estate while Daniel and Chloe were away on a weekend PR retreat. The storm roared outside, rain hammering the windows like guilt. She moved through the darkened halls with the ease of memory, her heels silent on the hardwood. She ascended the attic staircase slowly, every creak echoing like a whisper of her former life. She was looking for closure. Instead, she found a box labeled Chloe Private. Dusty. Unlocked. Temptation made tangible. Inside the box, high school diaries, old perfume bottles, glitter pens, and several leather-bound journals, monogrammed with Chloe's initials in gold foil. Evelyn sat cross-legged on the attic floor, flipping pages. At first, it was harmless fluff. Emma got the lead in the school play. Again. Daniel was staring at her all through lunch. Typical. Why does she always win just by existing? Evelyn's lips tightened. Then, the entries darkened. One journal had a torn sticker reading The Whitmore Plan. She opened it. Her breath hitched. Day 1, told Daniel Emma had been texting her ex again. Showed him fake screenshots. He didn't say much. But I saw it working. Day 3, slipped fake receipts into Emma's purse. Hotel room. Dinners. I even used her old passwords to create a burner email. Easy. Day 7, the big one. Told Daniel I was late. Waited 2 days. Then cried in front of him. He held me. Said it changed everything. Evelyn felt her stomach twist. Day 10, Emma told me she's pregnant. I smiled. I freaking smiled. I wanted to laugh in her face. I'm the one he's marrying now. Me. I don't even care if she tells him. He'll think she's doing it out of jealousy. And by the time she figures out I lied, it'll be too late. Let her disappear. Let her rot. The words blurred as Evelyn's tears welled. But she forced herself to keep reading. Every entry revealed another knife in her back. Chloe had forged texts, manipulated Daniel, weaponized her sister's vulnerability with the cold precision of a strategist. This wasn't a moment of jealousy. This was a campaign. A war declared. And Evelyn had never even realized she was in it. Evelyn stood in the attic, fists clenched, the journal shaking in her hand. The storm outside mirrored the one inside her. Rain lashed the window. Lightning flashed. She wanted to scream. To shatter something. To go back in time and shake the version of herself that wept on an airport bench, heartbroken and pregnant, thinking she'd simply been forgotten. But instead, she breathed. Slow. Steady. Because now she knew. She hadn't been abandoned. She had been eliminated. The pieces rearranged in her mind like a cruel jigsaw puzzle. Daniel's confusion. His coldness that came out of nowhere. His hesitation at their final conversation. Chloe's sudden engagement, and her calm smirk as Emma stormed away. It had all been manufactured. Scripted. And Daniel. He had been lied to, too. That didn't absolve him. But it explained the hollow in his eyes every time he looked at her, as Evelyn. She finally understood. He hadn't let her go. He had lost her. Evelyn returned to her estate with the journals sealed in a weatherproof briefcase. She locked them in her safe. Later that night, she sat on Lily's bed, watching her daughter sleep with a stuffed fox curled in her arms. That little girl had grown up without her father because of lies told by a woman who wore Evelyn's face and shared her blood. Evelyn stroked Lily's hair. Her voice was calm, but deadly. I'm going to burn her world down, baby girl. The next morning, Chloe woke in her luxury hotel suite, refreshed and oblivious. She opened her phone to check her usual stats, likes, comments, follower growth. But the first notification wasn't from Instagram. It was a simple text. From, unknown subject, pages 41-45. Attached, PDF, she opened it. And screamed. Because staring back at her on the screen were the pages of her journal. Transcribed. Word for word. The ones that proved she'd faked a pregnancy. Forged messages. Lied. She dropped the phone. Then picked it up again. And called Daniel. Something's happened, she whispered, her voice shaking. But it was already too late. Because Evelyn Black was no longer playing games. She had the truth. And she was going to use it. Chapter 12, Queen Takes King. There is no cruelty like the kind delivered with a smile, a signature, and $1 billion check. The news broke on a Tuesday morning, just after the market opened. Blackwell Holdings acquires majority control of Whitmore Industries in hostile takeover. CEO Evelyn Black to assume operational control effective immediately. Chloe dropped her phone into her cereal bowl. Daniel, in the kitchen, nearly dropped the glass he was holding. She said she'd protect the team, he said quietly, rereading the headline. Chloe snatched the phone from the milk, eyes wild. No, no, no. She said she'd restructure, not steal it. They both turned to the TV. Evelyn appeared on the screen. Live. Standing at a podium outside the Whitmore building, dressed in a white suit that glowed like vengeance in the sunlight. Her voice calm, precise. I want to thank Mr. Whitmore for his years of dedication. But new leadership is required to take this company forward. We will rise again. Smarter. Leaner. Stronger. Cameras flashed. Reporters screamed questions. Evelyn only smiled. Chloe turned away from the screen. She's not just here for the company, she hissed. She's here for us. For me. Daniel ran a hand through his hair. I think she always was. That afternoon, Daniel walked into his own building and found armed security posted at every door. New staff. New protocols. His old office. Already being repainted. He was ushered into a boardroom by Evelyn's assistant without a single word of acknowledgement. She was already seated. Calm. Effortless. A laptop sat open before her. The screen showed projections, green arrows. His numbers. Her vision. You don't waste time, Daniel muttered, sitting across from her. I don't believe in hesitation, she said. Is this about business, or about me? She looked at him like he was a mildly interesting piece of sculpture. You were never the business. You were just attached to it. He flinched. We used to love each other. I remember, she said coolly. That's why this part is satisfying. Daniel leaned forward, his voice quieter now. Real. Look, I don't know what I did to deserve this, but... Oh, don't you, she said, voice sharp now, teeth behind the smile. He stopped. I may not know everything, he said slowly. But I'm starting to see it clearer. She cocked her head. See what? That I wasn't just a fool, he said. I was a pawn. A flicker passed through her expression, but it vanished as quickly as it came. I need time to fix what's left, he said. Please, Evelyn. She closed her laptop. I'm not Emma, she said, voice like velvet and steel. Emma begged. Evelyn doesn't. He looked at her like she was someone he'd never known. Because she was. Chloe watched from home as her empire crumbled. Evelyn's smiling face was everywhere, news feeds, business blogs, Instagram stories of staff cheering her first executive address. Chloe opened her journal, the real one, and tore out the pages in a fury. This wasn't just sabotage. It was surgery. Precise. Bloodless. Devastating. She threw the journal across the room and screamed. The walls didn't respond. No one came to check. She was alone. And Evelyn had taken everything. Daniel was summoned again 3 days later. This time to Evelyn's private office at the top of the newly renamed Blackwell Tower. It had once been his. Now it bore no trace of him. The shelves were lined with rare books and silver-framed art. A single orchid sat in the corner. Minimal. Elegant. Untouchable. Evelyn gestured for him to sit. He didn't. Why, he asked. If this was about revenge, fine. But this is war. Evelyn stood and walked to the window. War requires casualties, she said. Don't worry. You'll survive. I'm not going to take your home. Or your reputation. She turned to him, eyes glinting. Just your power. He stepped closer. You could have done this quietly. You could have told me the truth from the beginning. She didn't flinch. Would you have believed me? He said nothing. Exactly. That night, Evelyn stood on the roof of the tower, glass of champagne in hand. The city lights below shimmered. Lily was asleep at home. Chloe was unraveling. Daniel was defeated. The company was hers. She had played every piece, every pawn. She had moved them across the board with the grace of a master. And now, check. Only one thing remained, the endgame. She smiled. But in the distance, thunder rumbled. Because even queens can't control what happens when the next player takes the board. Chapter 13, The Necklace. Sometimes the smallest thing, an old charm, a simple chain, is the last thread holding together the truth. The sun filtered through the trees in Oak Ridge Central Park, dappling the grass in gold. Lily ran ahead, laughing, her curls bouncing with every step. She wore a white dress with lavender trim and a little denim jacket. Around her neck glinted a delicate silver chain with a tiny charm, an open book, etched with the faintest initials, D&D. It was the necklace Daniel had given Emma on their first anniversary. He had it custom-made. Only one existed. Or so he thought. He was sitting on a bench at the edge of the park, sipping coffee, his thoughts drifting dangerously close to memories he tried to bury. Then he saw her. Lily. And the necklace. His entire body stilled. The past crashed into him with violent clarity. Emma laughing as she opened the velvet box. Her hands shaking as she clipped the necklace around her neck. The kiss afterward. The words she whispered that night, "Now I'll always carry you with me." He stood, unable to breathe. The girl looked just like Emma. Just like him. And now she was wearing that necklace. She turned and saw him watching her. She smiled. Innocent. Open. Unaware. Then Evelyn appeared. She approached like a thundercloud in designer heels, her face smooth, but her eyes, panicked. "Lily," she said softly, "stay close to me." Lily trotted toward her. "He was here again," she said. "The nice man. He smiled at me." Evelyn didn't answer. She was staring at Daniel. And Daniel was staring at the necklace. He approached slowly, like he was approaching a live wire. Evelyn turned to face him, her mask already sliding into place. "Miss Black," he said, voice low. "I need to ask you something. And I want the truth this time." Her eyes narrowed. "I'm not obligated to explain my daughter's wardrobe to you." He nodded once. "No, but maybe you'll explain that." He pointed to the necklace. "I had one made just like that," she said quickly. "It's not uncommon." "No," he said. "It is. That piece was handmade by a jeweler in Florence. I designed it. One of a kind." She said nothing. He took another step forward. "That little girl, she has your mouth. But my eyes. She wears Emma's necklace. And she called me the nice man like I was familiar to her." Her silence became louder than thunder. His voice cracked. "Just tell me the truth. Is Lily my daughter?" Evelyn's lip trembled, just barely. She turned away, only for a second. But Daniel saw it. A single tear. The first she had allowed to fall in 5 years. When she turned back, she had wiped it away. Her face reset to calm. "No," she said firmly. "She's not yours." Daniel stared at her, stunned. "You're lying." "I'm protecting her," she said. "From you. From all of this. She deserves to know. She deserves peace." Evelyn snapped, her voice sharp as glass. "She doesn't need a man who married a monster. Who stood beside her while her mother was erased." Daniel stepped back like he'd been slapped. "I didn't know," he said. "I didn't know what Chloe did. I was a fool, yes, but I wasn't evil." She looked away again. "That's what makes it worse." Lily tugged gently at her mother's coat. "Mummy, are you okay?" Evelyn nodded, crouched, and hugged her tightly. "I'm okay, baby. Let's go home." Daniel stood frozen as they walked away. But the truth had already sunk into his bones. That was his daughter. And he had missed everything. Back at the estate, Evelyn locked the door and slumped against it. Her hands were shaking. The lie had cost her. The necklace had betrayed her. But it had also protected Lily, for now. She walked into her study, opened a drawer, and pulled out the original velvet box, the one Daniel had given her years ago. She held it to her chest. Then buried it in the fireplace. Flames consumed it slowly. But not the truth. Because truth, once awakened, never sleeps again. Chapter 14, Business, or Pleasure. Some people propose love with roses and rings. Others do it with contracts and consequences. Daniel hadn't slept in days. Not since the park. Not since the necklace. Not since he looked into Lily's eyes and saw everything he had lost reflected back at him. The image haunted him, a little girl with a book-shaped pendant and a grin too wide to be Chloe's. He'd always believed his mistakes were buried beneath time. That regret would fade like smoke. Now he knew regret had a name. Lily. And her mother. She was standing in the boardroom of his former empire, cold, powerful, unshakable. But he'd seen her flinch. He'd seen her break. And that was enough. The next day, he waited outside Blackwell Tower, freshly shaved, dressed in the navy suit Evelyn once called his intimidation armor. Only now, the armor felt thin. Evelyn exited the building with her usual entourage, sunglasses in place, lips a perfect crimson slash. "Mr. Whitmore," she said, not stopping. "I'd like a meeting," he said. "Not corporate. Personal. Coffee." She paused mid-step. For a second, nothing moved. Then, 1 hour. "My office." "Come prepared." Exactly 1 hour later, Daniel stood in her penthouse office, nervous, uncertain, and exposed. She sat behind her glass desk, sipping tea. "Well," she asked. "I want to partner with you," he said. A pause. "In business," he clarified. She didn't look convinced. "You said Whitmore Holdings had potential," he continued. "Well, so do I. I know the company. I know the market. I know you see what I can do when I'm not being pulled under." She tilted her head. "You're asking me to give you a stake in something I just took from you." "I'm asking you," he said slowly, "to let me help rebuild what I broke. And maybe, rebuild something else, too." Now her eyes lifted. She said nothing. So he continued. "I want to prove I'm not the man who abandoned Emma. Or Lily. Even if you keep lying to my face about her." The temperature in the room dropped. "You're treading dangerous ground, Mr. Whitmore," she said coldly. "I've already fallen off the cliff," he replied. "Might as well climb up the right side." She stood and walked to the window, her heels echoing like a clock counting down. Outside, the city buzzed with life and light. Inside, Daniel waited. Finally, she turned. "I'll think about it," she said. "You didn't say no," he replied. She walked past him slowly, deliberately, and whispered near his shoulder. "I never say no until I've seen the trap." Their eyes met. And for the first time in 5 years, he saw something behind her walls. Possibility. Or so he thought. Later that night, Evelyn stood in her study, papers spread across her desk. In one hand, Daniel's drafted business proposal. In the other, a hidden flash drive, containing every journal page Chloe had ever written. Every lie. Every manipulated thread. She inserted it into her computer and began uploading the files into a private server titled Endgame. Simon Graves called. "You're playing with fire," he warned. "Accepting a partnership with the same man who ruined you." "No," she said, eyes like ice. "I'm using the fire to burn the last bridge." "And the child?" Simon asked. Still keeping her in the dark. Evelyn hesitated. "Then, she'll know everything. But only when the story is mine to tell." The next morning, Evelyn met Daniel at a secluded cafe on the lake, the place where they'd once talked about building a home together. She wore no makeup. No armor. Just a sleek black turtleneck and silence. She slid a folder across the table. "Partnership agreement," she said. "With clauses that favor Blackwell. Severance terms. No voting rights until Q3. He opened it, surprised. "You're serious?" I never bluff, she replied. Then, with a softness that could be mistaken for grace. But remember, Daniel, just because I'm letting you back in doesn't mean you've been forgiven. He nodded. I don't want forgiveness. What do you want? He looked up at her. You. The word hung in the air. Evelyn stared at him. Then, she smiled. A smile that said, welcome to the trap. Chapter 15, Chloe's Breakdown. Some masks don't fall, they're torn off by the hands of madness. It started with a whisper in Chloe's inbox. An anonymous message. No sender. No context. Just a subject line, Evelyn Black is a lie. And one attachment, a high school yearbook photo. Emma Reynolds. Before the heartbreak. Before the reinvention. Before the name change. Same eyes. Same jawline. The unmistakable curve of that stubborn, resolute mouth. Chloe's fingers trembled as she zoomed in. She didn't want it to be true. Because if it was, everything, her marriage, her social standing, her brand, was about to collapse under the weight of the one woman she thought she had erased. Chloe tore through her bedroom like a storm. Designer dresses scattered. Pill bottles tipped. A shattered compact lay on the floor, the mirror cracked, just like her. She threw open her laptop and began digging. Blackwell Holdings. Evelyn Black. Emma Reynolds. The more she searched, the more dots connected. Timeline. Silence. The child. The necklace. The whispered familiarity in Daniel's voice. And then, the final confirmation. An article buried deep in a London gossip archive. Mysterious investor Evelyn Black seen exiting maternity clinic with infant daughter, 5 years ago. The photograph was grainy. But clear enough. Emma. Holding Lily. She didn't call Daniel. She didn't warn anyone. She just got in her car and drove, recklessly, red lights ignored, music blaring like a war cry. By the time she reached the glass manor gates, her eyes were wild, makeup smeared, teeth clenched. The guards recognized her from old society pages. They hesitated. Let me in, she hissed. I'm family. They shouldn't have. But they did. Evelyn was in the sunroom with Lily, helping her with a school project, a cardboard solar system, planets dangling from strings. Lily laughed as Saturn spun. Then. A scream. A door slammed open. You lied to me. Lily froze. Evelyn stood slowly, instinct already moving her in front of her child. Chloe stood in the doorway like a woman possessed. Her hair wind-whipped. Her lipstick smeared like war paint. You think you can erase me? Chloe spat. You think you can take everything back like I'm some footnote in your dramatic little fairy tale? Evelyn's voice was cold. Controlled. Lily, go to your room. Lily hesitated. Now Evelyn said. Lily ran. Chloe stepped forward. You faked your death, Emma. I disappeared, Evelyn corrected. Because you destroyed my life. Chloe's laugh cracked in her throat. You think you're better than me. You lied to everyone. You let him suffer. You kept his child from him. Evelyn's hands curled into fists. Because you poisoned him against me. Chloe's eyes sparkled with tears, but not the kind born from pain. From delirium. I should have made sure you stayed gone, she whispered. I should have. She looked toward the hallway where Lily had disappeared. And Evelyn moved. Not a step. Not a word. Just the change in her body, the shift from poised to predator. Say her name again, Evelyn said, and I will bury you with your secrets. Chloe laughed. You're still the little girl who never fought back. Try me, Evelyn said. For a moment, the world held its breath. Then footsteps echoed behind them. Daniel entered, out of breath. His eyes flicked from Evelyn to Chloe, rage already rising. Chloe, what are you doing here? She turned toward him with a gleam in her eye. Ask her who she is, she hissed. Ask your precious Evelyn where she really came from. Daniel looked at Evelyn. His voice barely above a whisper. Emma. Evelyn didn't look away. Yes. Daniel stumbled back as if struck. You lied to me. I protected her, she said, voice shaking. From you, from her, from the wreckage you both created. Chloe laughed. She's the villain now. After abandoning you. After hiding your daughter for 5 years. Daniel turned toward Evelyn, heartbreak and rage clashing in his eyes. I missed everything, he said. Because of both of you. Evelyn took a breath. I wanted to destroy you, she said. And I did. But somewhere in the middle of that, I realized Lily deserved better than revenge. A beat of silence. Chloe stepped forward, still shaking. You think you've won, she whispered. You think you get to walk away with the moral high ground. You'll never be the heroine, Emma. Not with blood on your hands. Evelyn's jaw tensed. Then I'll be the villain who protects her child at any cost. Security escorted Chloe out, screaming, kicking, sobbing. As the door slammed behind her, Daniel turned to Evelyn. He didn't speak. She didn't explain. The silence between them said enough. A war had ended. But the aftershock was only beginning. Upstairs, Lily peeked out from her room. She saw her mother trembling. She saw her father, standing still. And she knew, without being told, that something enormous had just shifted. Chapter 16, Flames and Fatherhood. The truth doesn't always rise from ashes. Sometimes, it screams for help through smoke, and finally calls you daddy. Chloe hadn't spoken to anyone in 2 days. After being dragged out of the Glass Manor, humiliated and exposed, she'd driven to the old lake house her family used to visit every summer. Now abandoned, its windows boarded, the dock rotting, the water black as ink. She stared into the reflection of her own rage. She'd lost everything. Daniel. Her influence. Her perfect storybook lie. And Emma, no, Evelyn, had taken it all. She poured whiskey into a teacup and lit a cigarette with shaking hands. That night, a thought slithered into her mind like a snake. If Emma wanted to rise from the ashes, then let her burn. The Glass Manor sat still beneath a silver moon. The staff had been dismissed early. Evelyn and Lily were upstairs, reading under a canopy of stars painted on the ceiling. A car pulled quietly into the trees beyond the property. Chloe stepped out. She wore black gloves and silence. She slipped around the side of the house and found the utility access. The wine cellar's old door, Emma's father never fixed it, was still loose. She stepped inside, unnoticed. A small canister of gasoline. A lighter. 2 corners. 2 ignition points. She whispered, ashes to ashes, Emma. And flicked the flame. Evelyn woke to the scent of burning cedar. Not a candle. Not the fireplace. Real fire. She sprang up, pulling Lily from the bed. Out of the house she ordered. Now, baby, go, go. Lily clutched her stuffed fox, terrified. Mummy, what's happening? Stay right behind me, Evelyn said, trying to remain calm. The hallway filled with black smoke. The staircase was glowing with heat. Then, boom! An explosion from below. The wine cellar door. Evelyn was thrown backward, Lily's scream cut short as they were separated by the collapsing landing. Evelyn scrambled, coughing, trying to get to her daughter, who had vanished into the smoke. Lily. Daniel was on his way back from a late meeting, the road winding along the manor's east drive, when he saw the flames from the tree line. Red and wild. No sirens yet. No help. He slammed on the brakes. The gate was closed, but he climbed it. Heart pounding. Legs burning. By the time he reached the front of the house, the upper floor was an inferno. He didn't hesitate. He sprinted up the steps, covering his mouth, pushing through smoke, calling her name. Lily. A cough. A cry. From the bedroom hallway. He kicked through the half-collapsed door and found her curled in a corner, her dress singed, her little fox clutched tight. Her face lit up. Daddy, she screamed. And the world stopped. He froze, mid-breath, mid-panic. She had never called him that before. She had never known. But somehow, she did now. And so did he. Come here, he choked out. She leapt into his arms. He ran. Down the hall. Over beams. Through fire. Out the window and onto the balcony roof, where a small security ladder led to the garden. Evelyn stood outside the manor, screaming into the smoke. Lily. Daniel. Then, from the fire, they emerged. Daniel carrying Lily, his face blackened with soot, eyes wild. She was crying. Coughing. Clinging to him. And calling him, again and again. Daddy. 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 Evelyn's knees gave out. She collapsed onto the grass as firefighters finally arrived behind her. But it was too late. The house, the life she built, was gone. Paramedics checked Lily on sight. Daniel refused to leave her side. Evelyn sat wrapped in a blanket nearby, staring at the ruins. Chloe was gone. No note. No witnesses. Just the smell of gasoline and vengeance. Daniel walked over, holding Lily, who was finally asleep. She called me Daddy, he said. Evelyn nodded. Her voice was hoarse. She knew. I never told her. But she knew. I could have lost her, he said. Without ever knowing she was mine. I was trying to protect her, she said softly. No, he replied. You were trying to protect yourself. She looked away. You should have told me. I know. Daniel looked back at the ruins. So where do we go now? Evelyn's eyes burned brighter than the fire behind her. Into the truth. Because every broken heart deserves a comeback. If this story touched you, don't forget to subscribe for more emotional romance every week. Hit like, drop a comment, and ring the bell so you never miss a moment of betrayal, redemption, and powerful love. And don't keep the drama to yourself, share this story with someone who lives for twists just like you. Thanks for listening, and remember, sometimes the best revenge is becoming unforgettable.